All right. Now in Python, there are a lot of ways of collecting data, okay, and especially saving them or keeping them, storing them, however you want to call it. Other languages you would call them arrays, okay, arrays as in arrays. All right, yeah, and there are various forms. When we're learning the data types, I think we mentioned some of them. We mentioned lists. Let me just create a new. We mentioned lists. We mentioned tuples. We mentioned dictionaries. We mentioned sets. I think this is what we're going to deal with for now. Yeah, so it's important. Each of them has a way they function, and it's important for you to understand how each of them works so that you can tell which one to use at any time. So we are going to take them one after the other, and we're going to look at them. And in this video, we're going to talk about the lists. Okay, how does the list work? What is it, and how do you use it? Okay, everything about the list, or at most all the things you need to know about lists, we will cover. All right. So now, first off, a list is it can be assigned to a variable, just like we're saying a equals 4. You can assign a list to a variable too, and a list is created by using the square brackets. Okay, you can find it on your keyboard. A list is created using the square brackets. Now, you can add anything to the list. I think I mentioned this in the previous video. You can add anything to the list. Okay, as long as you've properly named it, or assuming if it's a string, you need to put it in quotes. If it's a number, you need to leave it as it is. Yes, so let's just see list A. Okay, and we really have to stop labeling our variables with letters. They don't really make sense. Let's say names. Okay, names, we have Justine, we have what a name can we get? We have Ato or Ato. Okay, we have Kwame. Sorry, we have Kwame. We have Efo. Oh, sorry, Efo. All right, so now this is just a list. You can print the list of names. Okay, you can say print names, and it's going to print it for you. It's going to print the list for you. Now there are other things you can do about a list. For instance, if you want, you can access the list. Okay, you can, if you want to access, let's say you're working on a particular project and you want the first name of this list. Okay, so you're going to say names, that's the name of the list, then you use the square brackets, then you say 0. Now you need to understand that Python is or most languages, I think, they start counting from 0. They don't start counting from 1. If I were to count, I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, but no, they don't use these natural numbers. They start counting from 0. Okay, so this one is actually 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. So you are saying give me the from these names, give me the element at number 0. Okay, that's this one. Let's print it out. So we can assign it to a variable called name, or my name if you want. Let me use my name here, my name. Okay, then we'll come down here and say print my name. All right, it says Justin. It's able to access the first one. So what it means is it checks through this names list. Okay, it gets the number 0 element. That's this one. It's important. You just have to understand that some people mistaken it by putting equal signs. I've seen some people doing it this way: names equals 0. Oh, names equals 0, and that's not how to access the list. What you are doing right now is you are reassigning it. You are telling no, names is no more equals to Justin. I've told you to come. No, names is now 0. That's what you're telling it. Okay, so now if you ask it to print names, okay, let's do a little experiment here. I'm going to ask you to print names before and after. Okay, so print names here. Okay, so we want to see exactly what we've done. So it's going to print the names here, and it's going to print the names here again. It first prints Justin this. Now it says no, names is now 0. You've replaced all this with names. Okay, if you want, you can always access it here. Names, it's going to give the same value 0. All right, so you don't put an equal sign. No, you just print it as it is. Names, then your square brackets, then the variable you want to access. Now we want to access 0 there, or the first element, so put 0 there. Then we get it. That's the, oh, let's remove this one. We don't need it anymore. All right. Okay, I'm going to clear my console. Control L will help me clear my console. Now, there are other ways of accessing your list. For instance, you want all the elements in your list. Okay, you are doing something. You want all the elements in your list. We're going to use a column. Okay, use a column. You're going to print everything in your list. See, you're going to print everything in your list. Now, if you want a range, let's say you want to print from 0 to the third element. Okay, so it's going to start printing from 0, 1, and 2. All right, let's see. 0, 1, and 2. Doesn't really print the third element. You are telling it to range between 0 and 3. It's going to start counting from 0, but it doesn't really get to 3. Okay, you should note some of these things. All right, now you want to print, let's say from 1 upwards. Okay, so you can say from 1 upwards. You see, this column is from 1 to the rest. Okay, so it says, okay, it has jumped Justin. You can also do the same. Okay, you can say from upwards, no, to 2. Okay, from upwards to 2. It's going to print Justin at 2 and ends there. Doesn't really add the rest. Technically, you are telling that from 0 to 2. That's basically what you're telling. Now, if you want to access the last element in your list, you use a negative number. Okay, negative 1. Negative 1 will access the last element. It's like it goes to the back of the list and gets it. It's going to give you a 4. Okay, in the same way, if you print negative 2, what do you think you get? From it's now going to start counting from the back. Okay, it's like the number line. One counts forward the positive way and one counts backwards the negative way. Yeah, so if you start accessing them from the back, it's going to, from with negatives, it's going to start accessing them from the back. All right, I hope this is all making sense to you and that you're not really getting this. But this is how you can access um numbers, or let's say elements in a list. You can also access them like this. Okay, if you are using negative numbers, first thing is you need to put the bigger number in front, unlike the first one where the smaller number was in front. The bigger number, technically, which is the smaller number, so negative 3 to negative 1. Remember, negative 3 is smaller than negative 1, right? If you put it on the number line, so you need to make sure that the smaller one is in front and the bigger one is at the back. And what it's going to do is it's going to start counting from the smaller one and it's going to end at a bigger one, but it will not add the bigger one, just like the other one was behaving. Okay, it's kind of some way, but I think you, if you take your time to think about it, you will get it. Let's try it. I'm just going to copy this one and paste it back here and put this one in a positive format. Okay, from 1 to 3, so that you can compare them. Okay, all right. So now what I'm trying to explain is that this one counts from the smaller one, that's negative 3 to negative 1, and this one counts from 1, which is the smaller one, to 3. They are both going to give you the same values. Okay, remember, it doesn't include the last one, it doesn't include the bigger one. Okay, so it doesn't include the number negative 1 value. Okay, which is this last one. It doesn't include f4, but it will include 1 and 2. It will not include 3. If you are counting from negative, it's going to include 1, 2. It doesn't include negative 3. Sorry, negative. If you are counting from negative, it's going to include negative 3, negative 2 here, but it will include negative 1 because negative 1 is bigger. It will include, I don't know if you understand it, but don't worry, it's not something you really need to understand, but you just have to understand that that's how it works. It starts counting from the back. If you think about it that way, it will make sense to you. Okay, all right. List has functions that it performs. Okay, it has things that it can do. Anything that is a list has things that it can do. I'm just going to assign another variable here called a number. Okay, a number equals, let's say, 23, and I'm going to show you something. Now I can say number dot, and it can ask me the bit length of the number. It has a lot of things it can do because the number is more or less a class. Okay, it's an object. It's an object. Okay, all right. In the same way, a list is also an object. There are things it can do. There are things that it carries. I'm just going to recall the list. And when I use dot, when I put dot in front of it, it's going to try to access all the things that a list can do. Okay, so it's telling me that a list can append. It means it can add more values to the last. For instance, let's just write a list can append. We're going to add another name. Let's say we're going to add Kojo, alright, and print. So then after that we'll print names. Okay, so what it means is that um add append means add to the last. Okay, append, add to the last. So add this word in the quotations, okay, or in this brackets, add this word in brackets to this list, okay, and then print out the list of the names. Okay, so it's going to do that. It's going to add Kojo to it and print it out. Okay, you can add anything. You can add anything. So for instance, if you want, you can add a number to your list. Okay, you can add a number to your list and to print it out. You can add a list to your list, okay, and to print it out. It's simple. So it's a function. When you're working, you will see that this function is quite important. When you're working, you realize that you'll be generating answers and you want to keep appending your answers to the list. So that's where this comes in. Now let's continue to experiment with our list object. Now if you are not sure what something can do, just type on it and press the dot. The dot will try to access the things it can do. You can extend. I'm just going to try to explain some of them to you. Some of them are self-explanatory. You can sort the lists. Usually to sort them alphabetically or from like in ascending order. You can pop, for instance, you can pop a particular list, a particular element in the list. Okay, we will be using some of them very soon. You can try to find out the index of the list. Now I can't explain all these functions because it will take time, so I'm going to explain those I feel are really important, you must know. Yes, if any other is important, you'll find it popping up in some of the videos of the videos. Okay, so for instance, this index, you want to know where, let's say, ato is. Okay, what's the index for ato? So what it means is it's going to I'm going to assign this to a variable. Okay, remember, unless you assign something to a variable, you can't access it again. Okay, so I'm asking it to get me the index of ato. So it's going to take this word ato, cross check this list and count to see where ato falls. It tells me ato falls at 1. I said okay, ato falls at 1. Easy. Yeah. What else can it do? Names dot. I feel like going to start at the bottom. Okay, you can remove something from the list. So you just say remove, then in brackets what you want to remove. You can insert something into the list. For instance, you can just going to good. This is good. It will tell you what index do you want to insert it and what do you want to insert. So let's say I want to insert at index 1. Okay, that's where ato is, and I want to insert me, or rather me. Okay, I want to insert me into the list. Then after that we'll print ss. Now after that we'll print the name. Okay, names. I want to see the whole list again. So you see it says 0 1. Now at 1 it puts me inside it, then it prints ato, Kwame and Efo. I think that makes sense, right? Yeah. There are other things you can do with a list. Okay, so dot. Now you can count the number of times something a particular word is repeated in a list. For instance, you have Justin several times. You can count the number of times it exists. You can reverse the list. You can move the list to another. Now what I want to also show you is this function len. It actually represents length. Okay, length. So you can find out the length of the list and then you print out the length. Okay, so let's just do that. Tells you that the list is having 4 elements. That's what it means. 1 2 3 4. Now the length is different from the index. Okay, the length actually counts the natural numbers as in the realistic. You can't say, oh, there are 0 1 2 3 4 objects. It won't make sense. That's just the indexing. The length tries to count how many objects are inside. How many objects are inside? You have 4 objects inside. I mean 4 elements inside it. All right, I think you understand the difference between the index and the counting, or the length. Okay, all right. Yeah. What else do I want to show you about lists? So we've looked at the append function. We've looked at the insert. Remove is similar. For instance, you want to remove, let's say, you can, so names dot remove. You want to remove a certain word. Which one do we remove? Let's remove fo. Okay, I want to remove fo. Then after that you print names. Okay, so that you would see if fo is still there or not. I'm just going to run it and then print without fo. DC. It prints without fo. All right. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? Um, Okay, so for instance, if you are really curious to know what the pop does, you can just put it here. List names dot pop. So pop here, then you give it an index. What do you want to pop? On pop index two. It's just bringing out what is inside index two. Okay, so 0, 1, 2. It pops out for me. You can assign it to something and use it later. So assuming you have two lists. Okay, assuming you have two lists. So this was just one list. So let's say ages. I'm just going to create a list called ages, and this time I'm going to put numbers into it. Oh, okay. All right. Let's give the age for a last person. Okay. So now, okay, for quick confirmation, let's print ages, and I'm going to clear my console. Okay. I'm going to clear my sorry. I'm going to clear my console because it looks too nasty, and I'm going to print all the ages. Now we have about oh, there are more than what I needed, but okay, it's fine. Okay, so we have ages here. Now you can join the two. Okay, and how will you do that? You use the extend. Okay, you can join the two functions, the two names lists. So you could say list dot names dot extend, then in brackets, what do you want to extend it with? You extend it by ages. I think that makes sense, right? So oh, sorry, we should print ages. If you want, you can just print it here. If you're using anaconda, you can always, so you don't need to say print. If you're using the console, you don't need to say print. Just call back whatever it is. Okay, so I'll just put it here, print. Now if you're in the editor, you need to use the print so that it can output it in the console. If you're in the console, you don't need to use print again. Right, so we have it here again. It gives us the list plus the ages. I think that makes sense, right? Yeah. All right. So for now, that's where we would end with the list functions, and then we would continue later.